Hello readers and writers, I'm MJ, and today I'm going to be featuring some books by Latinx and Hispanic authors. So first on my list, I would like to go into some of the books that I have read, and then as a bonus at the end, I have some books that are still on my shelves to be read. So first of all, I want to apologize. I have been feeling not so great, and still not better. So if I'm a little rambly, I am very sorry. But it was very important for me to get this video out because September 15th is the start of Latinx Hispanic month, and I wanted to showcase some Hispanic, Latinx, Chicano writers because they're important. This is not an inclusive list. This includes some that I have read and still own. I've read many more, and I have so many more books to read. So if you have books that you don't see on here, please drop them down in the comments, because so everyone can see them. First up is Pride by Ibi Zobaya, and this is a Pride and Prejudice retelling. It's YA, and it's from an Afro-Latino perspective, set in Bronx. It deals a lot with gentrification and wealth disparity. Pride and Prejudice is a very popular book. I've heard a lot of really great things about Pride. I've read it. I don't appreciate YA as much as some individuals do, and this one's definitely very YA. It's got a very strong main character, which is great, and deals with a lot of tough topics that I wasn't I was introduced to more so in this book. Next up, I have The Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School. This is by Senora Reyes, who is a second-generation immigrant and deals with the complexities of queer identity, specifically within the Catholic space. This is also extremely YA, but I really enjoyed this book. It was a very strong 5-star read to me. I really connected to it, even though I did not personally identify with it. I still really connected with it. I really enjoyed the writing. I know it's very popular, but if you haven't picked it up yet, I strongly recommend that you do. It's just such an amazing book, no matter what your age or identity. Next I have V by Aurora Marquez. This is about an autistic Chicano vampire and her struggles in self-identity. I really enjoyed this book. It is indie published, and the author's amazing, so you definitely should go check this out. Also, this is an extremely important book to me personally because it's one of the few autistic books I know not written from a white perspective. It's not the only one, but it's not, it is the only Chicano, Latinx, Hispanic autistic perspective book that I know of. If you know of others, please let me know. But it's so important to have intersectional viewpoints when it comes to racial identity as well as any identity, disability representation. It's great to have autistic books, but to have Chicano autistic books, it's honestly even better. So I definitely recommend you go and pick up V, and you'll also be supporting an indie author with this one. And next up I have Dark and Deepest Red by Anna Marie McLemora. I remember reading this, that it was a 5-star read for me and really enjoying it, but then not really remembering what it was about. So it's one of those like kind of mixed books that I really enjoyed it in the moment, but it didn't exactly stick with me personally. It's about a pair of red shoes that Rosalie Olivia find, and they make her dance uncontrollably, and it starts kind of this dancing fever. And yeah, now I think I'm gonna have to read this again so I can remember more of it. It is YA, and it has an exceptionally beautiful cover, in my opinion. Anna Marie McClure also wrote Lake Lore, which is a YA non-binary book about two different individuals who are both, you know, growing up with their non-binary identities, and this kind of magical realism world beneath the lake. This one's really great because it really does have a lot of interplay between non-binary identity as well as their Latinx identity. There's some mental health rep in here as well, and so again, this is another book with really great intersectionality. It was a little bit kind of mystical writing for me, and definitely very YA, but it's a really good book to have read, and to be there for young adults to read. This author actually has a whole backlist of books, but those are the only two that I have read. And next up is another author that has several books out, and one that I really enjoy, and that is Aiden Thomas. This is Cemetery Boys, which is about a Latinx family, and specifically a trans identity. It has a Latinx fantasy aspect to it. And this was the first book that I read that actually had like binder representation in it, as as an adult, was transitioning. And it was, I don't know, for me personally, it was really cool. But also Aiden Thomas is an amazing writer. I really like what they have put out so far, and that does include their second book, Lost in the Neverwoods. This is a Peter Pan retelling, and is a little bit more of a traditional voice narrative. So it has a little bit less like trans representation, a little less cultural representation in it, but it was also one that I think that he had written prior to Cemetery Boys, and then they had published it because, you know, we were all hungry for more of their work, so they published it. But I really enjoyed writing it, and I actually cried tears at the end of this. So even though I get why people do not like it as well, I do think it's still a very strong book in and of itself. And then we have his newest works, which is The Sunbearer Trials, which is a YA Aztec-inspired world, and with all sorts of queer trans identities in here, but also really great book. I think, like everyone else, I am anticipating the sequel coming out. I almost forgot to add this book to this list, so I'm really glad that I pulled it off my shelves. There's probably some other hidden gems behind my shelves also, so it just gives me a good time to highlight more authors. And again, what I'm missing, go ahead and please put them in the comments, because I know I'm not being all-inclusive, and there's so many books that I'm not even aware of. Okay. This is The Inheritance of Orquidiva Divina, and I apologize. And it's written by Ordavia Cordova. This is the Book of the Month edition, but it is magical realism that looks at a family and the different aspects of the family, but also like a fantastical element to it, and the grandmother turns into a tree, and it was just such magical writing that it's definitely one that you should pick up. And now Adam Silvera, they both die at the end. Adam Silvera writes a lot of YA books, so I don't really connect to all of them, but this is the first book I read of this year, and is going to be my favorite book of the year, or at least on that list. it had me in tears. But Adam Silvera is Puerto Rican, and this specific book is about two boys that get a phone call telling them that they are going to die that day, at some point in that day. And so then they have to decide how they're going to spend their last day together, or last day, and end up spending it together and kind of falling in love with each other. And it's really sad, but really beautiful at the same time. I've read some other books of Adam Silvera. They're not always my thing, because he writes, again, very YA, but this one, wow, this one was a wow. So those are some books that I have read, and now kind of as a bonus, I wanted to highlight some of the books that I still have on my shelves. These are books that I've heard really good things, so that's why I picked them up, but I've not personally read them. So yeah. The first is Olga Dies Dreaming. This is by Jotel Gonzalez. So this is about two siblings. One is Latinx congressperson and the other is a wedding planner. It is set in New York City and does look to be kind of talking a lot about family dynamics. This is a new book that I just added to my list from Rainbow Crate. It is called Ender and Santi Were Here. It has non-binary and Mexican-American representation in it. It looks kind of like a transitioning to adulthood love story. I've heard really good things about this book. I don't know if it's going to end up being for me personally, just because, you know, but I really do think it's going to be an excellent book. Next I have Mexican Gothic, and also this is the author of Gods of Jade and Shadow, which is actually on my TBR this month, but I haven't started it yet, but I didn't pull it out of my TBR, but that's part of this list also. And this is supposed to be a reimagining of a Gothic horror story about an isolated mansion in the 1950s in Mexico. That's really all I know about it. I have concerns there's going to be a little bit too Gothic scary for me, because I'm a wuss, but I've heard nothing but amazing things about this author and this book, so I had to grab it when I had the chance, and I can't wait to actually pick it up. I have probably had Incendiary on my TBR shelf for way too long. It is written by Zordia Cordova, which I'm just now putting together, wrote The Inheritance of Quadira Davina. And I should have put that together a lot earlier. But it does give me extra incentive to pick this up, since I know that I really like their writing. This is a YA book. I don't know a lot about it. It looks like a fantasy book with a very intense plot. But yeah, now I have to up this on my TBR. And the last but not least is one of the good ones. I'm sure I have other books on my TBR shelf, but this video is already exceptionally long, so I had to end it at some point. This is written by Mika and Martiza Millet, and they are siblings that are daughters of Haitian immigrants. This book deals with the complexities of an individual who was killed during a rally against injustice, and deals from the perspective of the family left with the identity of this individual, how this person is being seen by society, as well as and how that relates to the person that they know as their sibling. I know this is going to be an intense read, but this is why I picked it up, but I haven't read it yet. So I have so many more books that I need to read, but I'm really glad that they exist. Yeah, So sorry that this is probably a little bit more scattered than normal. Thank you for your patience. Let me know which of these books you have read, if any, which of these books that you want to read, and what books I'm missing from this list specifically. If you know of any other Hispanic, Latinx, Chicano, autistic authors, indies, traditionally published, whatever, I would love to know more about them so that I can read them and feature them on my channel. But yeah, thank you, and as always, keep reading, keep writing, and until next time.